All right, welcome back, everybody. Resilience is on my mind as we start facing the repercussions of dealing with COVID-19, both at home and in the workplace. And Bulldog 7 and I, we've got a panel of guests today, and I'd like to go around the table and see who we got.
I'm Sergeant First Class Domenic Buscemi. I am the First Sergeant of Charger Company 177. I'm also a Master Resiliency Trainer.
Great.
I'm Chaplain Pickering. I'm the Brigade Chaplain here for 3rd Brigade.
And I'm Oscar Ramos. I'm the social worker with the Embedded Behavioral Health Team.
Okay, welcome everybody. So I'm Bulldog 7, of course. So I think like Colonel Cloutier talked about, balance is one of the things that's hardest to do right now with everything that's going on. So what are some of the, I guess our first topic in question is, first Sergeant, how are you maintaining balance with everything that's going on and with a busy family life and everything?
Yeah, so balance is very challenging, but especially during a time that's uncertain. I think one of the ways that I tackle balance between the military and my family life is I look at some of this teleworking as an opportunity to look at some of the positive sides that you get out of it. I believe that you can use this as an opportunity on your telework days to find some connectedness in your family. You're spending a little bit more time together, which sometimes, high up tempo in the military, you don't typically get to spend that time. But also to plan some time for yourself when things get too challenging because you're not used to the time with your family. So I look at it as kind of a PMCS sort of thing, to find something for yourself and then find something for your family, and then utilizing this time to focus on things that are going to develop you for the military and yourself, in order to stay prepared to answer anything that the nation asks for. There's a lot of online credentialing opportunities that you can bring back to your troops. You can definitely get online and focus some of your efforts on that. You can focus some of your efforts on building time with your family and maybe reconnecting on some of the lost time. But I think it's very important to stay positive, especially not knowing what the future may hold.
All right, yeah. So those are awesome, some great ideas. So you mentioned a little bit about the fear of the unknown. What are some of the challenges and some of the ways that there are to kind of cope with some of that fear of the unknown?
So I guess from looking at it from a behavioral health aspect, we look at anxiety and how the unknown produces a lot of anxiety with people. And so usually what we want to do is we want to have a mindset to develop during this time of we will be okay by acknowledging facts. The information that is being put out, and remembering that, if you stay clean, if you do the things to stay clean, if you keep your social distancing, if you, wash your hands and ensure your inner circle is small, and so, ideally that should help. And so remembering what we're doing, and if you're actually doing those things, it helps with the anxiety of that. At the same time, adding on to the things that we can do to take advantage of this time off. Where if you have that moment to plan for things that you want to do in the future, career-wise, military-wise, it's a great opportunity. If you're looking into colleges, what better time than to spend a couple hours a day or a couple minutes out of the hour researching that actual university or that college program or that trade program, and at the same time, looking at special certifications, maybe having the opportunity to call creditors and ask for extensions or balance your money, or figure out financial I guess issues that we could all maybe be struggling with. And so during these times, it's also important to have a set structure and a routine. Usually you want to keep it to something similar that you did during the workday. And so what would be your morning routine for work, noon, and then in the afternoon, and then adding, the additional time for family. So having those purposes, that a goal for that. What's your goal for work today, on top of while you're staying at home? Or what's your goal for self-care today? I'm going to make sure I get my walk in. I'm going to make sure I walk my dog. where I'm going to make sure I at least spend an hour with my kids and my family. And so these are some things that we can try to do to help alleviate some of that anxiety or fear of the unknown by creating known things that we're going to actually do. So structure is important during these times.
Thanks. So Chaplain, the president a couple of days ago came out and has tried to prepare us for the worst outcome next, in the coming week or two that we have ever experienced. He's likened it to, 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. I think that was a certain in general, but preparing us for some terrible weeks ahead. And I know in the Army, we use the term gallows humor, and we use humor to kind of get through dark times, whether it's in combat or wherever. And but can you talk to us about how we can prepare ourselves and how we can get through this time period where we're being told that it's going to get very, very bad?
Sure. Specifically, everyone's going to vary a little bit in how they handle that, at least I believe so. I think faith and someone's spiritual background can play into that, because that helps us make sense of things like tragedy and make sense of why evil and bad things happen. So I would encourage people to lean heavy on that. Reach out to whatever faith group someone would be part of and begin asking kind of those big questions of what does it mean for suffering to exist? What does death mean? Because those are big questions that are going to be on people's minds. They can't really avoid thinking about those, just with the national conversation being what it's going to be in the next days. So at least here on Fort Bliss, there are some great resources we have through the garrison's, the installation chaplain's office. They've changed that in recent years, and I still use the old term. But through their Facebook page, there are a lot of links to live stream services that are going on, daily updates from various chaplains here on post. There are also some other great resources, if we don't have them on post, that are available that can be streamed. And that's one of the great things that we have right now. It's possible for people to stay in touch with their religion without physically being even in the same state. I have a friend who I know is streaming a mosque in Atlanta to do his Friday prayers because he can't meet with his Muslim community here now. So taking advantage of those resources and staying tied in with community and faith, I think, is very, very important for people, especially in the next weeks.
So that's great, Chaplain. It's important that folks are plugged into all those communities. What are some other maybe tools and resources that folks could access to help build that resiliency during these hard times?
So connecting, especially with our family, is important. And so, again, maybe we haven't had the time to specifically sit down and, call mom or call aunt or call my uncle, or, these strong relationships that we had growing up, and now we have a little bit more time. And so again, scheduling time to reach out to them. A lot of behavioral health services and even mental health services provided, whether they're on post or off post, are working, teleworking as well. And so reaching out to them, they're still taking intakes, we're still taking intakes. You can contact the 744-1499 is the number for the 3-1 embedded behavioral health. And so again, we have these options still available, still I guess you can still use them during this time. At the same time, you have Military One Source that you can look up online. ACS also has a lot of their services that provide online education and training. In the video itself, it'll have a link to digital resources, apps that you can download, that you can use and maybe kind of guide you through breathing exercises or stress reduction exercises that you can do. I mean, YouTube in itself has an immense amount of knowledge and people trying to reach out and share their knowledge on how to reduce stress. And so, looking at YouTube, for example, again, you can find progressive muscle relaxation techniques that are very helpful to help people during these stressful times. Those are just to name a few.
Okay. Yeah, and also our brigade, MIFLC, military family life counselor, she's available as well, and her number is 915-494-4455, and she can also do teleconferences and talk to people over the phone to include family members. So that's another great resource that's out there.
So First Sergeant, what is the most important thing that you do every day to maintain your resilience?
The most important thing that I do every day to maintain my resilience, sir, is to do a self-check. Just like
What does that mean?
Just like Mr. Ramos was saying, I alluded to PMCS. That is prioritizing what your day is going to look like, whether you're at work or you're teleworking. That for me helps me look at my day as more of a timeline than focusing on some of the constant updates that are coming out. And again, this is a trying time, but sir, I alluded to staying positive for the specific reason because it is easy for people to catastrophize, and if you're staying positive and you're focusing on that and you're building out a plan for the day, it helps you get through each day, day by day, instead of looking at, what does the future look like? We don't know, but as long as we practice going day by day, and that's one of the most important things that I do. Another thing that I do as a first sergeant is I like to see my soldiers. It is very hard not to see your soldiers as a first sergeant. So I make it a point to go around the motor pool when I have half of my company there, and I talk to people, of course, respecting the social distancing stuff, but I talk to people, and that helps me go throughout my day, in the military. As long as I talk to people, I make sure they're doing okay, and I ask them about their families, I can make it through that day. And if I continue to do that day by day, whether I'm teleworking one day or I'm at work the other day, for me that helps me not catastrophize about what could go on in the future.
So you're obviously trained and have all these great resiliency skills. So what are some good ways that you can that somebody who maybe doesn't have that formal training, so a brand new soldier or maybe even dependents and children, what are some good ways to help them through some of these some of the challenges that we're facing now?
Yes, again, looking for the positive moments. It could be as small as, I woke up this morning. That could be a positive moment that you think about and reflect. I woke up this morning. That right there, if you start off your day looking at that, like, I was able to wake up this morning and I'm grateful for that. That's a positive thing that you can reinforce, and if you carry that on throughout your day, it could be the smallest event, just as long as it's a positive event. And there are going to be some negative times, but trying to handle those negative times without making it seem like the worst case scenario, and capitalizing on those positive moments is going to outweigh the negative time. So if you start off your day just by that one thing, I was able to wake up this morning, I was able to have breakfast this morning, I was able to see my kids off to school this morning, which isn't very typical for someone who's in the military. If you can capitalize on finding positive things each day, and we call it hunting the good stuff in a resiliency term. If you hunt the good stuff and you practice that, it helps even children, spouses, military members, brand new privates. If you were able to do that day by day, and it takes a little bit of practice, you pull out a notebook and you write those things down, and at the end of the day you reflect on those positive moments, it will help the next days go by much better.
What should we be looking out for? What are some early warning signs of our resilience being checked?
I find when I start getting short-tempered and irritable with my family, because they're the ones that are going to catch it. Because at work, obviously having it cross my chest, it makes me control that a little bit more.
My wife tells me to go run when I start getting short. It happens a lot.
No, but for me, that's one of my clues, and I also, frankly, my kids. My kids will very often call me on and say, "Hey, Dad, what are you mad about?" And I don't even realize how tense I've been until one of them says something. So that's the other thing I've learned to start doing is listen to them whenever they begin dropping the head, because a lot of times they pick up on it before I do.
Just, you know, for people who maybe don't have that extended family or that different perspective, you know, our body temperature. You know, if it's slightly higher, you know, you might be upset. You might be getting upset about stuff. If you're isolating, you know, maybe you haven't checked in with who you would normally check in. You know, some of our soldiers live in the barracks, and so they haven't even talked to their, you know, their roommate, or they haven't even checked in with everyone else in their team that's literally down the hall. And so looking out for these things are good ways to kind of self-check how we're doing. You know, what we take in as well is also a good way. You know, when was the last time you had a healthy meal? Maybe a meal that you prepped is a good measure of, you know, what am I doing to stay balanced? You know, have I just eaten out? Have I stuffed my face with nothing but junk food for a whole week? And so that could be a good way to check whether or not we're still keeping that balance of being ready for when we need to. And then again, touching on the thoughts, these catastrophe-like thoughts. When was the last time that I said something positive or even thought positively about our current situation? You know, is it, oh, I can't do nothing, I can't do this, I can't do that? You know, well, what if we tried and reframe stuff? Well, now I have time to organize this closet. You know, now I have time to clean out the garage. You know, for people who are married or have that significant other, the honeydews, we got nothing but time, and so it's kind of hard to, you know, elude that now, and so or get away from that. And so again, a good self-check is to see our actual behaviors and what we're doing to help us really find out if we're being balanced.
Great. So it sounds like there's lots of opportunity for self-development, but I think it's probably also okay to just sit back and watch some Netflix or read a book, and not always be, you know, so focused on that. It's okay to take a little bit of time and maybe do what you want that is personal development and not necessarily professional, right?
I absolutely agree.
So, Sergeant Major, what do you do to stay resilient?
What do I do to stay resilient? I say, well, I spend time with my family, like we talked about earlier. I spend some time pulling some weeds, so doing home maintenance, some of the joys of home ownership, and try to take those times, like I was talking about, to do. I'm a sci-fi nerd, so I binge every now and then on a sci-fi show. But that's how I, you know, take some of that pressure off the top. And it's funny because my kids also do that same thing. Why are you mad, Dad? And I say, well, I'm sorry, I wasn't mad at you, and I didn't know I was specifically mad at anybody. I say, but now that I know, so I say we're going to relax and do something fun.
Great. I know I like to PT. I do that every day. Whether I'm working at home or whether I'm working out here, that's the one way I try to stay resilient, and then trying to keep a sense of humor in some really dark times. It is okay to laugh. It is okay to forward a meme. It is okay to binge watch The Tiger King. But you got to keep your spirits up, because if we are indeed heading for dark times, and we have got to pull each other through this. We've got to maintain our resilience. We've got to help ourselves, our families, our soldiers maintain their resilience, and we've got to be ready to go when the nation calls. But thanks everybody for this roundtable and for helping us explore how to stay resilient in tough times. Bulldogs.